Amphiprion akindinos. That is the scientific name for this anemone fish, filmed towards the top of an underwater cliff face that dropped down 2,000 meters to the sea floor. That clownfish and these corals grow on ledges along the vertical edge exposed to the full force of the Pacific Ocean. Somehow they persist. They cannot easily be seen from above. Waves break on the outside edge of the cliff face that reaches up to sea level. These are the Ribbon Reefs, a true barrier to the Pacific Ocean. To know the corals and the fish, I must jump in and spend time under the water, even with the sharks. To know a coral garden at night, when the big fish are hunting, that is to know nature can be dark as well as light. Shallow water washes over the inside edge of this flat-topped barrier of limestone, this ribbon reef. We are 60 kilometres from the Australian mainland. There is healthy coral along the edges and also in the shallows. A ribbon of the colour mauve through a colony of Acropora, the most common genus of coral at reefs across the world. This is a different species of hard coral, perhaps in the genus Oculina. It's a hard coral because of the corallites. That is the external skeleton of calcium carbonate surrounding the soft-bodied coral polyp. These polyps have their tentacles extended. Corallites join the polyps together in so many different ways, creating such diversity of form. Hard corals are the building blocks of reef systems. 5 years ago, a cyclone destroyed all the corals at this reef. The hard corals have since regrown. This beautiful coral garden is a cycle of regrowth. The coral destroyed by the cyclone was washed onto the sea floor, a coral graveyard. There are piles of coral debris like this at most reefs. Over thousands of years, layer upon layer of living coral is laid down, representing cycles of growth. And so, a tower of coral is built up all the way from the sea floor, almost to sea level. These towering columns are called bommies. They are within the barrier reef, inside the ribbon. So much diversity on the ledges, on the edges. A leafy scorpion fish, Te Ionotus triacanthus. A ragged-finned lionfish, Pteros antenata. filmed 8 metres down the Bommy inside the Barrier Reef. A coral in the genus Tabastria without zooxanthellae. Most hard corals have zooxanthellae, the symbiotic algae making them solar powered. When the corals are stressed by high water temperatures, the zooxanthellae are expelled. This is referred to as bleaching. Bleaching, as the corals are then so white for a period of time. The massive coral colony known as the monolith is one of the largest colonies of Pavona clavis in the world. Thousands of years in the making, the monolith was reported as severely bleached in 2016. I'm so happy to see this magnificent structure fully recovered and now beige in colour. Hopefully it will still be here in another 2,000 years. After all, this survivor has already endured countless cyclones and bleaching events. We have called the documentary Clowns on the Ribbon's Edge because we found so many anemone fish, including clown anemone fish, everywhere at the ribbons, especially on the cliff faces that run both sides, inside and outside, along the ribbons. We also found so many little Nemos in the shallows and on the ridges and on top of the bommies. But do you think we could find any bleached corals? We dived for a whole week, and every day we dived a different reef. It was not easy finding any bleached corals. Most corals had fully recovered from the bleaching event reported around the world in April 2016. Today's special is potato cod, Epinephelus tucula, not to be mistaken for a potato and not your average cod. Tucula is actually the species name for this giant cod. The cod and me, from such different worlds. Yet we can look each other in the eye. We both have eyes to see. Also at the cod hole, a giant tridacnid clam, the largest species of marine mollusk alive today. There were bigger clams in the past, thousands of years ago. The Great Barrier Reef is the largest coral reef system to have ever existed on planet Earth. It is but a thin veneer growing on top of at least 5 previous extensive reef systems, each destroyed by past dramatic falls in sea level. On the outside edge of a ribbon, within the cliff face that reaches almost to sea level, we found a limestone cave. Limestone is calcium carbonate, originally from the corallites of the corals now dead. There are healthy corals now growing within the cave, including these two beautiful soft corals in the genus Dendron-Phythia. Calcium carbonate, the limestone, is soluble in fresh water, in rainwater. So this cave must have been eroded by a stream flowing over the continental shelf to the Pacific Ocean when sea levels were 120 metres lower than they are today. It was with the onset of the last ice age that sea levels fell. The coral reefs contracted down the cliff face. Then, when the warm cycle returned, that was 10,000 years ago with the beginning of the current geological epoch, the Holocene. Then sea levels rose again, filling the cave with seawater. And so the coral reef expanded up this cliff face and eventually into the shallows again. Amphiprion percula, the species of clown anemone fish made famous by Nemo, playing hide and seek on the edge of a ribbon reef on the 21st of January in the year 2020. The waters of the Great Barrier Reef are still crystal clear and so warm.